Okay, let's unpack this. Grant writing. We are talking about one of the most uh, high-stakes competitive arenas out there.
Oh, absolutely.
It doesn't matter if you're working in the nonprofit sector or you're a consultant. It is intense. And we're not talking about small budget items here. This is about securing essential funding.
It's the lifeblood.
Exactly.
Right.
The lifeblood that keeps these crucial organizations running, getting programs launched, and keeping missions alive. And here's the really tough part that we saw across all our sources.
Yeah.
Your entire success or failure. I mean, we could be talking about a multi-million-dollar proposal. It can all hinge on a single paragraph.
Or even a single sentence. That's right. The margins for error are just razor thin, and the competition is, well, it's only getting fiercer.
So that's what we're here for today.
It is. So if you're a grant writer, maybe you're in-house juggling a million different things, or you're a freelancer building your own practice, this deep dive is for you. Our mission today is to really examine why continuous professional development, or PD, isn't just a nice to have.
Not just a line item on a budget.
Exactly. It's an absolute cornerstone of the work.
Yeah.
You have to keep your techniques, your strategic thinking, and just your basic understanding of the funding landscape. It has to stay sharp.
That framing is so important. This isn't some academic exercise. It's a strategic necessity.
Mm-hmm.
If your goal is to maximize success with, limited time and resources, then investing in learning is really just about working smart.
It's all about working smart. It ensures your strategies line up with today's best practices, not what worked 3, 4, 5 years ago.
And things change that fast.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
If we're talking about techniques from just a few years ago, some of those are already outdated. Foundations are constantly shifting their priorities. Government agencies change compliance rules.
And technology, I imagine.
Technology is a huge one. It evolves the whole submission process. So if a writer fails to invest in their own PD, their knowledge just gets obsolete. Fast.
And that puts real money on the line.
It puts millions of dollars of potential resources at risk. You just can't afford to rely on old tricks when you're trying to make the case for, essential mission support.
I can only imagine the pressure. I mean, the sheer volume of applications must mean that reviewers are just looking for an easy reason to say no.
They are. They're looking for that first mistake that lets them move a proposal to the no pile.
So PD, in that context, it's almost like professional risk management.
That's the perfect way to look at it. PD is your insurance policy. It's insurance against procedural failure and, honestly, against intellectual stagnation.
So how does that look in practice? I mean, the needs must be different depending on your role?
They're very different, and that's where we need to get into the weeds. We need to explore how PD has to be tailored.
Okay.
Let's start with freelance grant writers. For them, PD is hypercritical. And that's because, they are their own brand.
They're selling themselves, their expertise.
Exactly. They're selling expertise and a verifiable track record. Clients hire them to get the funding they couldn't secure on their own. So if you're not out there actively looking for specialized training, new techniques, little tips on how to navigate a particular foundation,
You're falling behind.
you're handing a massive competitive advantage to your peers. You have to stay in the vanguard.
I really like that framing.
Yeah.
The freelancer as a brand. So let's just run through a scenario. Okay, let's say a freelancer just had a huge win for a client. They used techniques they perfected maybe 6 months ago. The client's thrilled, but now
comes the next one.
Right, now comes the next proposal. And it needs to be even better, even more compelling to keep that client and protect that reputation.
That's the cycle.
So, okay, the obvious answer is more training. But here's my question. If everyone is focused on best practices, doesn't that just make it even harder to stand out?
That's a crucial question. And the difference isn't just about being good. It's about specialization and depth. General PD keeps you current. But specialized PD, that lets you claim unique expertise. Things like specialized workshops or webinars focused on really niche areas.
Like what?
Like navigating a brand new federal funding stream or mastering impact measurement metrics. These are the tools that allow for differentiating improvement. It lets you offer services your competition just hasn't caught up to yet.
So you're not just learning how to write anymore.
No. You're learning what to write about and, more importantly, where the money is going to be next. That's how you stay in the vanguard.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about the other side of the coin? The internal grant writers.
Right. They face a totally different set of challenges. They are often juggling, so many internal projects, all with different deadlines. They have to coordinate with every department,
The development team, finance, program staff.
all of them. So for an in-house writer, PD is often less about branding and much more about optimizing those internal processes.
So efficiency.
Efficiency and strategy. Training can help them use new workflow strategies, master project management tools. It's about organizing their time and their documents so they can actually think strategically.
I see.
When an internal writer invests in PD, it pays dividends across the entire organization. Their success rates go up, which maximizes the organization's return on effort.
So freelancers focus on competitive differentiation and internal staff focus on strategic optimization.
Exactly. Two sides of the same high-value coin.
Okay, so we've established the why. Let's pivot now to the how, the actionable side of this.
Let's do it.
Beyond just formal training, how do grant writers actively grow? Our sources pointed really strongly toward extending your circle of influence.
Absolutely. And strategy number one is a big one, professional associations.
Okay.
And these are so much more than just, networking groups. They are vital hubs for business development and for knowledge. Joining them connects you directly to the pulse of the industry.
Let's get specific then. Which associations offer the best return on investment?
Well, a great place to start is with the specialists. The Grant Professionals Association, or GPA,
EPA, okay.
its unique value is its deep focus on ethics, on certification, and on the actual craft of grant writing itself. If you want to refine your technique and get credentials the industry recognizes, the GPA is essential.
But you can't just stay in that silo.
You can't. You have to look broader. So the Association of Fundraising Professionals, AFP, is critical because grant writing doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? It's part of this huge philanthropic ecosystem.
So AFP gives you the big picture.
It gives you the big picture, insights into major donor strategy, campaign management. It gives you context for how your proposal fits into everything else the nonprofit is doing.
That's a really subtle but important point. A grant writer who understands the overall development strategy is way more valuable than one who just knows how to fill out a form.
Precisely. And then you have the mission-specific groups.
Ah, for niche fields.
Exactly. So if you're in higher education, you need to be in the Council for the Advancement and Support of Education, that's KAC. If you're in healthcare, the Association of Health Philanthropy, or AHP, is where you'll find that niche knowledge on hospital foundations and health grants.
And the benefit here isn't just learning. It sounds like it's also about business.
And it is critically about business, especially for the freelancer. It's access to curated knowledge, yes, but it's also a steady pipeline of referrals and new projects from people who trust the association's vetting process.
It builds trust.
Builds trust and becomes a regular source of business.
That's so smart.
Yeah.
It's about deepening your roots in the whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting.
Uh-huh.
Strategy 2 is continuous learning through specialized platforms. This goes beyond just a simple membership.
Right.
The sources we looked at really emphasize that the most successful grant writers are constantly visiting these educational platforms.
Yeah.
They're looking for those little nuggets of information that can make a huge difference.
That constant intake of knowledge, it's just non-negotiable. And what's so fascinating is how broad the available resources are now. We're talking about training that covers 3 major areas:
Which are?
technical writing and compliance, business management and consulting, and then legal protection and risk management. To be a successful grant writer today, you really need to be competent in all 3.
Okay, let's pull out some specifics there. Let's start with business management. This feels vital for anyone running a freelance practice.
It is. These training modules tackle the uncomfortable but necessary questions about money and growth.
Like what to charge.
Exactly. There are courses focused specifically on what to charge for as a grant consultant, and it goes way beyond just setting an hourly rate. It covers project scope, defining your deliverables, and mastering value-based pricing.
Tying your fee to the impact.
Tying your fee directly to the potential impact of the grant you secure. That is a critical shift in mindset.
Now, what about the biggest freelance challenge of all? Finding clients.
There are dedicated resources for that too. Things like how to get nonprofit clients for your grant writing business. And they move away from just general marketing advice and get into specific strategies for the nonprofit world.
Tailored advice.
Very tailored. How to leverage your network, master your outreach, understand nonprofit procurement cycles. There are even resources for people just starting out, like the first step to become a freelance grant writer.
So it's not just about the writing skill. It's about building the business around the skill.
And that's often where talented writers fail, not because they can't write, but because they can't consult.
Right. And once you build that business, you have to protect it. That brings us to your second area, legal protection and contracts.
Yes, and this is arguably the most critical for risk management, and it's so often overlooked.
So give me a tangible example. Why should a writer who's focused on securing millions in funding spend their time on legal boilerplate?
Because that boilerplate is your shield. Professional development offers deep dives on this, like understanding the 10 contract clauses to protect nonprofit consultants and grant writers.
Okay, what's one of those clauses?
One of the most important is a clear definition of your termination policy. Without it, you could put in 50 hours of work, the client could just vanish, and you have no legal recourse to get paid. That clause is your professional insurance.
Wow.
Another one is defining scope. Contract training teaches you how to write clauses that prevent scope creep.
When the client keeps adding more and more work.
Without adjusting your payment. A good contract protects your time and your profitability.
And it protects the nonprofits too, right?
It does. PD raises the standard for the whole field. There's information on what should a nonprofit consider when hiring a grant writer. And they can learn to spot warning signs, like the 3 red flags when hiring a grant writer.
Wait, I'm genuinely curious about those. What's one of those red flags a nonprofit should look for?
Well, according to the sources, one huge red flag is any writer who promises a 100% success rate.
A guarantee.
A guarantee of funding. Foundations and agencies just don't operate on guarantees. A true professional understands the competition and focuses on maximizing the odds, not making impossible promises.
Spotting that one red flag could save a nonprofit so much time and money.
And huge disappointment. It's that cross-pollination of knowledge that helps stabilize the whole sector.
Okay, and that brings us to your third and final focus area, expert wisdom and foundational skills.
Right.
Even if you've been writing for decades, why go back to the basics?
Because foundations change, but wisdom endures. And sometimes, we lose sight of the fundamentals when we get bogged down in all the administrative details. These resources often offer a mindset shift.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Take the lesson from Karen Eber-Davis. How can your nonprofit win a grant? Her core insight is that winning isn't primarily about the words on the page.
It's not.
It's about the relationship. She teaches that securing a site visit or just having a conversation with a program officer often outweighs perfecting the grammar. PD reminds us that this work is fundamentally human.
And what about advice from veterans like Dr. Bev Browning? What's the greatest lesson they teach?
Dr. Browning often emphasizes resilience, learning from rejection. In a field this competitive, failure is just. It's inevitable.
So you have to be tough.
You do. Her wisdom focuses not just on the technical stuff, but on the emotional and professional stamina you need to treat every no as data for the next proposal.
The sheer breadth of these resources is amazing. From, a quick 2-minute video to an hour-long legal
It
session.
really shows that plateauing in this career is entirely a choice. The tools are there. They are readily available to constantly level up.
So what does this all mean?
It means that regardless of your path, whether you're freelancing and building a brand or you're in-house accelerating your organization, PD serves a singular higher purpose. It helps you produce grant proposals that are technically flawless, strategically compelling, and as competitive as they can possibly be. And when you secure those funds, PD becomes the catalyst. It helps you move the world forward by empowering missions to grow.
That is the perfect synthesis, the high stakes and the high reward. Grant writing requires working smart, not just hard. Just think about the incredible return on investment.
It's huge.
How much could one small investment in knowledge, a quick lesson on a red flag, a webinar on a new funding trend, how much could that increase the success rate of a multi-million-dollar proposal? The leverage is just exponential.
It really is.
For you to explore these topics further, we gathered all the videos and more on grant proposal writing, consulting, and management mentioned today. Just go to the website grants.courses for these educational videos and more.